Hi there, everyone, and welcome to our award ceremony and showcase for Capital Debates Debate Class 201 here in this early week in August. We are super excited to have you here. My name is Dr. Ryan Rigda, and I have been the instructor this week, and I am joined by an awesome assistant instructor, which is Emily, coming from Florida. We're really excited to have you here in our showcase and award ceremony this afternoon. Your students have worked really hard all week, and it's time for you to see the hard work that they've put in and for them to get some recognition of that. So in the course of this next hour and a half-ish, we will tell you a little bit about what your students have done this week. We will offer them their congratulations and award certificates, and then you will get to see their final debates of the week, which they've put a lot of effort and work into. So let's start off with the award ceremony portion. And I want to talk a little bit about the class first and who we are and what we did this week. As I said, my name is Dr. Ryan Rigda, and I've been the instructor this week. I'm currently a lecturer of communication at Saginaw Valley State University in Michigan. So I teach communication classes like public speaking, debate, small group communication, among other things. And I also coach the speech and debate team on the college level there. And I'm really excited to be back with Capital Debate this year. This is my 6th year, and I always have fun working with these students. With that, I want to turn it over to my assistant, Emily, to introduce herself and tell you a little bit about who she is, which you may already know from last week.
Yes, hi, I am still Emily. Some of you may recognize me from last week. I've had the pleasure of teaching these kids 2 weeks in a row now. But in case you forgot, my name is Emily. I am a rising sophomore at the University of Central Florida. I may have an engineering degree, but I promise I'm qualified to teach this. I've been doing public speaking for my whole life, but a formal speech and debate sense, I've been doing it for about 5 years now, competing nationally. I've been nationally recognized and qualified for multiple national tournaments during my time. And yep, so I'm currently on the speech team at my college, the University of Central Florida, and I'm super excited to have this opportunity to kind of share some of my knowledge to these younger kids. They're really taking it in stride and doing an absolute great job with it. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, and the students have absolutely loved working with Emily this week. I've been so thrilled to have her. She's been a great asset in the classroom, and I know that your students really enjoyed having her over the last 2 weeks. She's offered some great feedback and some comments, and your students have really grown because of getting to work with her and her experiences. So thank you, Emily.
Thank you.
So what did we do this week? We did a lot, actually. Your students have probably done the most work in 1 week that they've ever had to in a class. And that's because they had to functionally get an entire debate together in 3 days so that they could debate on Thursday. And now, sure, they had a little leg up because they learned how to write a persuasive speech last week, which we kind of carried over. But that still meant they had to do some tweaks and edits and fix things that they could create a full opening speech and then add 2 more speeches on top of that. So this week, we really focused on some of the skills that it takes to be a good debater, like writing a good opening speech and adapting to your audience, being able to effectively attack and refute your opponent's points, as well as how to persuade a judge at the very end of the debate by providing a short summary and closing speech. And so all of these things were skills the students had to pick up on and learn this week and build upon each other to finally get where we are. And ultimately, students were able to do, at this point, 5 full debates. So they debated 5 times each, and they're going to debate a 6th in front of you this afternoon. So lots of experience this week. And of course, we've been continuing to work on things like delivery skills, research skills, critical thinking, focusing on making eye contact, having good hand gestures, and we're hoping you're going to see all of that in our debates this afternoon. That being said, let's turn it over to our awards slides, where we are going to recognize each student for their hard work this week and completion of another successful Capital Debate camp. So first up is Sunny Chen. Congratulations, Sunny. I'm going to give you my golf clap to myself here, but hopefully your parents are cheering you on in the background or later on if they watch this. Sunny has been wonderful in this class. I have thoroughly enjoyed seeing her grow as a confident speaker. In fact, when she gave her final debate this morning, both Coach Emily and I noticed that she really went for it. Like she took all of our notes and our pointers, and she came out super strong and ready to debate. And I know that her confidence level has increased because of the second week. So Sunny, congratulations on completing your second week of camp. And I will let Emily introduce Justin.
Yes, so Justin Huang, it has been just the biggest pleasure getting to work with Justin. And the biggest thing I think I can mention about him that just really shows his character is without fail and without prompting, after every single debate, he would take the time to congratulate the person he was debating against. He just genuinely thinks that he recognizes the talent in all of his peers, and he has the confidence and self-assuredness to point that out to them without any shame. And I think that that is just so wholesome and so nice to see that this kid is just so sweet and so confident in his own ability to be sweet that he's not too scared to tell someone that they were a formidable opponent to debate against. Justin has grown so much in his ability to fill up his time and articulate his words and express himself with the full amount of time he's been given. And he's grown so much over the past 2 weeks. It's been an absolute blessing to teach him.
All right, congratulations, Justin.
Yes, golf claps for Justin.
Our next award then goes to Alex Kottke. Congratulations, Alex. It's been a wonderful week to have you. One thing we joked about with Alex this week is oftentimes we saw a lot more of his knees on the screen than we did his face because he liked to put his feet on the chair. But you know, that you won't see them today is a testament to how hard he's worked on his verbal and nonverbal delivery. And worked hard he has, because when he started, he probably could have given a 7-minute summary speech at the end here. And he's had to work really hard to be concise and cut things down so that he could effectively give a speech in the allotted time frame in as smooth a way as possible. And it's been really fun to see Alex work with that and keep adapting and changing each speech. And I know that you're going to be excited to see how hard he has worked as well. So, Alex, congratulations on your second week of camp.
All right. Next up, we have Zach Stark. Zach is, and I think I probably said this last week too, but it is always the thing that it's the first thing I notice about Zach is he is always the first person back to class. He beats me like 90% of the time back to class after we send everyone on a break. And I think that just really goes to show his readiness and his eagerness to learn. He's got such a passion and a drive for politics that is evident to see in the way he speaks and the way he conducts his research. And it is so nice to see that in the youth, as you know, it's not common that you find people so young that are so interested in what's happening in the American politics. So that energy and that passion is evident in the way he delivers his speeches, and it makes him a very strong debater and a very persuasive debater. So it's very nice to see Zach's put in the work this week, and it is paid off. And congratulations, Zach, on finishing your second week of camp.
Our next certificate goes to Bianca Zhang. Bianca has worked so hard on her projection this week and being more confident. And I think that is something she has absolutely succeeded at, and something that she is going to continue to work on for the rest of the school year, if not longer. And she should, because she has a lot to say and a lot of good things to say. And I think that people should hear her. And so we're really proud of how hard Bianca worked to be more confident, especially with her voice and using her words. And this week has been wonderful because she's come such strides since the very beginning and worked really hard. And I know that this is something that she's going to carry with her for a long time. So Bianca, congratulations on finding your voice and working on being a louder speaker.
Mm-hmm. And next up, we have Asher Zhao. We made jokes this week about Asher because the way his webcam is positioned, we could only see his little poof of hair in the actual framing on the screen. So we called him our little house plant because that's what he looked like. But yeah, the biggest thing I want to comment on about Asher, especially this week in particular with the debate, is Asher did a fantastic job of improving the improvised speeches. The second two speeches in the debate are not fully prepared speeches. A lot of the content that the kids are delivering is thought up of completely on the spot. And I know when as I was judging Asher's debates, he would start off and he would start going, and then he would like suddenly second guess himself, and he'd be like, "Actually, can I start that again? Like, can I start that speech again?" And seeing him grow and give his final debate this morning, he absolutely killed it. And that confidence increase, that ability to continue to push on and not second guess himself despite the intense amount of pressure that giving an impromptu speech bears, is really, really nice to see. And he's taken debate under his wing like an absolute champion. So congratulations, Asher, on that, and congratulations on completing your second week of camp.
All right, so that wraps up our award certificates. So congratulations to all of our students. You know that Emily and I are both very proud of you on how hard you've worked, and we hope that you continue to work hard this next school year. We know it's probably going to be a little challenging no matter where you are, but we know that you're confident in pushing through those things because of the awesome skills that you have. So parents and students, we would definitely love to hear from you how you think this week went. We know this isn't our normal camp. Normally we're in person and we're jumping around and doing things and having fun. But we had a different sort of fun this week. Playing some online games, getting to hang out here, getting to talk and share things digitally. So tell us what you thought about that. Parents, if you could visit parentsurvey.capitaldebate.com and share your thoughts. And students, if you could visit studentsurvey.capitaldebate.com, we would love to hear from you as well. We're always looking to make changes, to improve things, and we can't do that if we don't hear from you, to know what you liked, what you didn't like, what suggestions you have, because that can really make camp better each year. So please take a minute, share your voice at some time within the next day or two. As I start getting into our next programs, I just want to see if Ron is around to jump in. I know he wanted to say hi. Ron is our CEO. He might be able to hear me in the background here, but in this next minute or two, as I'm introducing this, maybe he'll jump on and welcome everyone. But I do want to take a minute to let you know we do have one more week of camp. If anyone is interested, we do offer other programs for students. And as you are aware from taking a second week, you do get a discount off of that for signing up this week using the code NEXTCLASS2020. We do have programs like legal communication, business communication, interpersonal communication, STEM communication, and of course there is more debate, which these students would be on the path for 301. Where they're learning the rest of their debate skills, as well as doing a lot more one-on-one style debates. In addition, students have the option to think about joining our Club League this fall. The Club League, which has a couple different variations, is a great place for students who don't have a debate program at their school to get the opportunities to debate, usually once a week in a coaching session or on the weekends when we will be offering some virtual tournaments. So if you'd like to hear more about that, I'd be happy to give you the email to Capital Debate or the phone number at the end of class so that you can reach out and ask some questions about the Club League or some of the debate programs we will have this fall. And that email is at the bottom of your screen right now. It's team@capitaldebate.com, or you can call at 800-450-5012. And of course, parents and students, please keep in touch with us. We love to hear from you throughout the year. Our contact information is there, and we also have social media that you can follow. So Capital Debate does have a Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. We do post information on there often. We like to share pictures and videos throughout from the summer throughout the year, and reminding students of the awesome time they had at camp. So follow those social media outlets to possibly see one of your students in action. With that being said, that concludes the certificate portion of our award ceremony, and we're going to get to some debates, which I know you are all anxiously awaiting. So these are all one-on-one style debates. Each debate is roughly 20 to 25 minutes, depending on how students speak. And I will be moderating along with Coach Emily to make sure that they have their times and everything. But we are first going to start with Bianca versus Sunny. So I'm going to go ahead and invite Bianca and Sunny onto the screen, please. All right, so Bianca, you are on the pro side, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so Bianca, you have 4 minutes for your opening speech. I will start the time when you do.
Social media has been in our lives for about a decade now. Platforms like Instagram and Facebook used to be a place where you can share with your friends what's happening in your life. Now, according to Pew Research, 59% of US teens have experienced harassment or bullying from the internet. Hi, I'm Bianca, and today I affirm the resolution that government regulations on social media would do more good than harm. The 3 reasons I have to prove this are: first, the government would do a better job of limiting the amount of cyberbullying that takes place online. Second, government regulations would give legitimacy to things sold online. And lastly, the government would be able to lessen the political propaganda which is very prevalent on social media. First off, my first reason is that the government would do a better job of limiting the amount of cyberbullying that takes place online. According to The Guardian, the CEO of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, wants governments to regulate more harmful content, election integrity, privacy, and data portability. These 4 areas are where the Facebook team and many other social media companies have failed to address these issues. Also, according to the British Broadcasting Corporation, a 15-year-old said on a survey, social media companies should be taking more action and should take complaints more seriously. With the government in power, they will be able to decrease cyberbullying rates and increase the severity for consequences for those who break rules. My second reason is that the government regulations would give legitimacy to things sold on social media. According to Forbes, on Instagram, unscrupulous advertisers falsely claim that this quarantine would make items like toilet paper run out during this COVID. These ads make it very difficult for people to not be vulnerable to traps like these, causing them to spend their money in unintelligent ways. Also, according to Pointer, in an ad on Instagram, the company Military Tees had made a high-quality drone $100 instead of $800. The buyer, Raul Gonzalez, received this drone in a plastic bag, and it broke within minutes. Although this may seem unacceptable, both Instagram and the FTC, the Federal Trade Commissions, concluded that accounts like these are not a violation of their endorsement policies. My third and final reason is that the government would be able to lessen the political propaganda which is very prevalent on social media. The FCC or the Federal Communications Commission would most likely be the ones regulating our social media. According to the FCC, 3 of the 5 members are Republican, while the rest are Democrats. Although there is one more Republican than Democrat, that does not mean that the decisions by this association would be biased. Also, On Twitter, Senator Elizabeth Warren stated, Facebook is paying for its own glowing fake news coverage, so it's not surprising they're standing their ground on letting political figures lie to you. Facebook knows very well that politicians are spreading lies about each other and profiting off of it, yet they don't seem to be the least bit concerned about this. In conclusion, government regulations on social media would do more good than harm. This is because they would be able to lower cyberbullying rates, provide legitimacy to things sold online, and decrease political propaganda. As our world continues to evolve, social media becomes more dangerous. For these reasons, we need the government to step up and help regulate our social media. Thank you.
All right, Sunny, do you need any time before cross-examination?
No.
Okay, your 2 minutes will start when you ask the first question.
Okay. You mentioned political propaganda where rip-off items are sold off on social media. eBay also advertises and sells scams. Why shouldn't it be regulated by the government?
Well, this argument is not about like eBay, because eBay is not necessarily a social media platform. We're mainly focusing on like Instagram and Facebook. So that's why I never really mentioned like eBay, because that's not what we're trying to talk about.
Yeah, I know that eBay is not social media. I'm just saying that eBay also sells scam items, and a reason that you said the government should regulate social media is because social media also does that. So I'm asking you, should the government also regulate eBay in that case?
I don't see why not.
Okay, moving on. So what is something that the government can do and social media can't?
So the government would, because we have a specific association that would be able to target, like just mainly focus on social media, they would probably be able to get more like advanced equipment to make sure that like scams are less prevalent on social media, as well as making sure that people aren't hurt as much.
I believe that social media companies can also do that, because social media companies, their main role is to regulate social media and make sure it's safe, because at the end of the day, they are still a business. Can you explain?
So social media, the main problem I see with social media is that they've been given over a decade to improve like cyberbullying rates and stuff like that, and they have slightly, but I don't think they're doing enough.
All right, thank you. Sunny, you ready to jump into your opening speech?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll start when you do.
Phil Napoli, a professor at Duke University, said, "I think a compelling case can be made that social media platforms are in need of some form of government regulation. Clearly, everything needs some restrictions. However, these restrictions shouldn't be controlled by the government. My name is Sunny, and I am against the resolution of government regulations of social media companies do more good than harm. First, it would harm businesses. Second, companies are already regulating social media. And finally, authorities controlling social media violate the First Amendment. The first reason I am against the resolution of government regulations of social media companies do more good than harm is they hurt marketing. Social media can increase the amount of loyal followers to businesses, which increases the sales for their products and services. In a Forbes article, it states, a 2017 survey of 5,700 marketers revealed that 69% are developing loyal fans for their brands via social media marketing. In the same vein, 66% of users between the ages of 18 and 24 years old are more loyal to the brands they follow on social media, while 60% of 25 to 34-year-olds favor the businesses they follow on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Similarly, with such an immense impact, government regulations on social media will damage the promotions. According to Observer Research Foundation, an independent think tank based in India, the government should not do any social media regulations that must be done. Collective experience over many industries has shown that government regulations stifle innovation and create monopolies. Governing restrictions on social networks will stop businesses from developing normally and will decrease the amount of sellers for certain products. The following point is, companies are already regulating social media. On BBC it says, YouTube said that 8.8 million videos were taken down between July and September 2019. It also removed 3.3 million channels and 517 million comments. Globally, YouTube employs 10,000 people in monitoring and removing content, as well as policy development. Between July and September 2019, Facebook took action on 30.3 million pieces of content, which it found 98.4% before any users flagged it. With all this content erased, social media companies are already doing their job. If the government is regulating social media, any content that contradicts their views would certainly be taken down. All the government will do is invade users' privacy and violate their right to post their own ideas. Finally, social media is a place where people can express themselves. Since social networking is for people to relate and update themselves on current events, it would be ignorant for the government to control it. In agreement with the First Amendment, restrictions will be violating the freedom of speech. On dictionary.com, freedom of speech is the right of people to express their opinions publicly without governmental interference. Everyone possesses their own views, and there will be people who share those opinions. On The Guardian, it states, social media companies are all private businesses with discretion over the content they wish to promote, and any effort by the government to influence what social media platforms promote risks violating the First Amendment. I am against the resolution that social media companies do more good than harm because, first, they hurt businesses. Second, companies are already regulating social media. And finally, it would violate the First Amendment. As Phil Napoli said, although social media may need restrictions, those regulations should not be in the hands of the government. It is for these reasons, Judge, that I urge you to vote con in this debate. Thank you.
Okay, Bianca, do you need any prep time before cross-examination?
No.
Okay, well, I will start the time when you ask your first question.
Okay. So you have stated that social media platforms have taken a lot of content down even before it's been seen by the public eye. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Then, although after doing some research, I have found that some examples, the main examples of content being taken down before the public eye even sees it is Donald Trump from Twitch and the tag #DonaldTrump, but like over a bunch of different platforms. But the content that hasn't taken down has been people fat shaming others and making racist remarks about others. To me, something seems out of line. So do you believe that social media companies should do something about this? And if so, why haven't they?
Social media companies definitely should do something about this, but at this point, I don't believe this issue is big enough that the government is already thinking about regulating all social media. Right now, the government is only thinking about regulating TikTok, which is one big platform. However, it's not for the reasons that you listed that why government should regulate social media. And the reasons why a lot of content that is taken down have to do with Donald Trump is because Donald Trump, in a way, he's a very controversial person. People that like him won't directly say that they like him, and people that don't like him would immediately say that they don't like him. However, that's a big issue on social media, so that's why a lot of the content about him is taken down.
Okay. And if you have stated that you don't think the government should regulate social media, but also social media companies haven't been doing enough in their power to regulate social media because otherwise we wouldn't be having this conversation. So then who do you think should regulate our social media?
I still think social media companies should regulate social media. However, they could enlarge their power above it.
All right, Bianca, you're up for your attack speech. Would you like to use any prep time?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'll start the clock. Let me know when you're ready.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, you use 20 seconds of your prep time. Your 3 minutes will start when you do.
My opponent has made many compelling arguments, but here are a couple of reasons why I disagree with some of them. First off, my opponent has claimed that regulations on social media would harm businesses. My opponent believes that government regulations would result in creating monopolies. However, this is not necessarily true because as of right now, larger businesses like Romley and so forth are in fact taking up most of the ad space on large social media platforms. If the government were to regulate our social media, the government would give ad opportunities to smaller businesses while still being able to satisfy social media users. Next, my opponent has claimed that regulating our social media would violate the First Amendment. Although, according to the Washington Post, a report conducted by a former Republican senator and a law firm have concluded that Facebook has already been restricting free speech. Quote, Facebook's policies and their applications have the potential to restrict free expression. Free speech does not only protects you to say whatever you want about the government, but making harmful remarks is not protected by the First Amendment and should not be tolerated by social media companies. Lastly, my opponent has claimed that there already are regulations on social media that limit inappropriate content. Yet, social media always has guidelines, but clearly they aren't strict enough because problems like cyberbullying affect millions of children. Yet, in the status quo, cyberbullying has become such a huge issue to the point where, according to the CDC, suicide ideation and attempts among adolescents have nearly doubled since 2008, which was the start of social media, making suicide the second leading cause for deaths of individuals 10 to 34 years of age. If the government could regulate social media, they would be able to immensely help with this issue. For these reasons, I still believe that my arguments are stronger than my opposing. My arguments are still better than the opposing side because they are putting children's lives at stake here.
Okay, Sunny, would you like to use any of your prep time before you speak?
No.
Okay, 3 minutes will start when you do.
Okay. I'm here today on the con side, the resolution government regulations of social media companies do more good than harm. The first point the opponent made is social media is toxic and causes many teens to experience cyberbullying. Actually, on AP News, it says 29% said it made them feel less depressed and 39% made it feel less lonely. If social media can do so, it isn't toxic. Furthermore, it is shown that social media has incorporated a wide variety of tools to prevent cyberbullying, like the block button. All that really should be done is promote these so everybody understands how to utilize them. CommonSenseMedia.org teaches parents and children how to deal with cyberbullying. Block the bully if you get any mean messages through IM or a social networking site. Take the person off of your buddy or friends list. You also can delete the messages from bullies without reading them. For the government to end cyberbullying, they will either go through all users' chats and pick out the hurtful remarks, or they will erase everything completely. Government regulations will either invade everyone's privacy or disable features to chat with another. Therefore, the government controlling social networking will only bring disadvantages and will not decrease cyberbullying rates. Second, the opponent said that the government will eliminate the spread of false information. Firstly, social media companies are well aware of this issue and have taken precautions to prevent it. As I mentioned previously, on BBC it states that large-scale media platforms like YouTube and Facebook have created machines and hired tens of thousands of workers that go through to erase incorrect or inappropriate content. Secondly, the government has tons of things to take care of each day. On ushistory.org, it says, governments provide the parameters for everyday behavior for citizens, protect them from outside interference, and often provide for their well-being and happiness. That is enough to keep all government officials occupied every day. They would not have the time or resources to regulate social media, so they wouldn't do any better than the social media companies themselves. Finally, the opponent mentioned political propaganda where scam items are sold off of social media. A survey showed that nearly 34% of surveyed consumers will make more impulse buys on social media. And meanwhile, 63% of these impulse shoppers will end up sending most of their purchases back to retailers, accounting for a fifth of all online shoppers making more returns. Therefore, the products sold can be returned, but the ones that aren't are the ones that the buyers liked. Furthermore, eBay is notorious for selling rip-off brands and items, but all of these can be returned. However, the government is not going to regulate eBay for this reason. Thus, even if there is political propaganda, the government doesn't need to regulate social media. In conclusion, the opponent made some valid reasons for disadvantages of social media. However, I still believe that I win.
Okay, Bianca, you have about 1:40 left of prep time. Do you need that before you speak, or are you ready?
I think I'm all set.
Okay, I will start when you do.
As I previously argued, social media is a very toxic environment. It has caused the majority of US teens to have experienced bullying or harassment. The current state of social media is putting younger generations' lives at stake. Yet, social media companies still haven't done nearly enough in their power to help with this issue. Government regulations on social media would do more good than harm because they would be able to lower cyberbullying rates, provide legitimacy to things sold on social media, and decrease political propaganda. My opponent has made a very compelling argument, but here are 3 reasons why I have made a more convincing argument. First off, my opponent has failed to address the issue that people are losing billions of dollars every year from fraudery. Social media companies haven't found an algorithm that is effective enough to help decrease the wasted amounts of money. Next, my opponent has brought up a weak argument that the government would simply not have enough time to regulate social media. As I've mentioned before, the government would have a specific organization to tackle social media. Time isn't the problem here, but what is the problem is that lastly, my opponent has ignored the fact that children's lives are being put at stake here. And in this situation, it would be really ignorant to say that this issue can be solved with the touch of a block button or by simply deleting the app. After seeing hurtful remarks, the impact has already been made. People are committing suicide because of this. For these reasons, I urge you to vote pro for government regulations on social media for the sake of our future generations' lives. Thank you.
All right, and Sunny, do you need any prep time before your closing speech?
Can I use my prep time here?
Yeah. So you have your 2 minutes has started. Let me know when you're ready, and I'll try to update you about your time on the way. You've used 1 minute so far.
Okay.
Okay. 2-minute speech. I'll start when you do.
Okay. Social media has impacted our lives in countless ways. It has wedged its way into our everyday lives to the point where we cannot live without it. If government regulations If the government regulates social media, it can hurt businesses and violate our privacy. Even more, companies are already controlling social media, so there's no reason for the government to do so. During today's debate, my opponent made many strong arguments, but I'm going to provide 3 reasons why I'm winning this debate. First, the opponent's arguments are all based on the drawbacks of social media. The opponent found multiple strong reasons why social media is in need of some restrictions to prevent the reasons from occurring. Also, some reasons presented are also appear off of social media. Even so, the opponent believes that they should all be regulated. That is impossible because there are too many. However, they never clearly explain why the government should regulate social media. I believe social media companies could do a better job in controlling it. However, the government should not join in. Second, the opponent never clarified how specifically the government would regulate social media. You cannot present an issue and not provide a valid solution. The opponent never mentioned in what ways the government would do so. The opponent made many strong arguments on the issues of social media, however, never explained how. And finally, the opponent's reasons were not as impactful as the reasons I provided on the con side. Although some may sound more, are they really the platform's fault? I admit, social media is not perfect. Nothing is perfect. However, you cannot regulate social media at the cost of all the benefits media platforms would bring. In conclusion, I'm against the resolution that government regulations of social media companies do more good than harm. Could you, Judge, imagine the government controlling the social media you use today? That is why I urge you to vote con in this debate. Thank you.
All right, nice job. Congratulations, Bianca and Sunny. That was a wonderful example of a debate there. One thing I want to point out to people watching at home is how well their debates clash together. So this was a very good example of how the both speakers took the points the other side was making and used those in their speech. They really tried to highlight how their points are better or working with or against, and that creates for a really good debate. And so that was a great example. So thank you. You guys can go ahead and go off screen now. All right, so we just saw Bianca and Sunny. That means I am going to invite our next debaters, Zachary and Asher, onto the screen, as well as Coach Emily, who is going to moderate this debate. So I'll give them a minute to turn their webcams on, and I will go off screen so that Coach Emily can take over.
All right, you guys ready? So we have Zach arguing the affirmative, so he is going to start us off with his opening speech. Zach, you can go ahead and stand up whenever you're ready, and I will start the time on your first word. Good luck to both of you.
All right. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Social media may very well be the strongest influencer in the transferring of modern day information. But is it acceptable for these companies to be the only ones regulating what is allowed to be said? Hi, I'm Zach Stark, and I affirm the resolution that governmental regulation of social media companies does more good than harm. Government regulations on what social media is allowed to remove from their sites can have substantial benefits for the following reasons. First off, social media companies have a large amount of control over information. This control can be used to silence political voices and sway elections to their liking. The second reason is that government involvement can ensure against cyber terrorism. As for the censoring of political views, a good example of this bias is Twitter suspending Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's account after he posted a video of BLM protesters threatening him. Twitter wanted to make the protesters seem like a great, harmless group out to do great things and make McConnell seem like this evil guy who was out to get them. Further proof of this bias is although Twitter flags many tweets for being offensive, they have nothing to say of the nationally trending nickname Massacre Mitch given to Mitch McConnell for having blocked gun control. Another example of this bias is Twitter flagging President Trump's tweet as violent and discriminatory when he tweeted out against violence and lawlessness in so-called autonomous zones. The president was commenting on what was happening in the zones, which he has every right to do, and the fact that Twitter can flag this as dangerous and discriminatory is dangerous for the country. because one party's opinion is not preferential in democracy. But when that party has control over the modern information transfer, it gets harder for the other party's voice to be heard. As for the prevention of cyber terrorism, governmental regulations can help to ensure against this, because 90% of all terrorism on the internet takes place via social media. With these terrorist groups using social media to recruit members for their causes. A terrorist group called Boko Haram released a video defending its bombing on Kano, Nigeria on YouTube. ISIS has released numerous threatening videos of beheadings. Now, ISIS accounts were banned from most mainstream social media platforms in 2014, but not before they got out lots of horrible and violent content. With the government involved, these accounts can be banned much, much faster. So, yeah, with these terrorist groups using these sites to recruit members all across the world, our national safety is in jeopardy, and it is the government's job to ensure that we are protected. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Social media may very well be the strongest influencer in the transferring of modern day information. These companies entrusted with that kind of power to them have the ability to influence elections and silence political voices. They also may be unwilling or unable to stop cyber terrorism on their websites. Government regulations and social media will do a much better job with this, as well as prevent the political voices from being censored, thus doing much more good than harm. It's for these reasons that I enforce the pro side of this debate. Thank you.
Thank you for that speech, Zach. Asher, are you going to want any prep time before we begin with the cross-examination? No?
No.
All right, the time starts on your first word then.
Zach, you claim that the Twitter wanted to make the protester look innocent and make Mitch McConnell look violent and discriminatory. Where do you get the evidence for that?
Notice that the Twitter does not remove any tweets showing that these protesters are out there doing great things, protesting for equality, and yet they suspended Mitch McConnell's account for being threatened. Does that sound fair to you?
So you're saying they're not suspending the protesters' account, right?
Right.
They're not suspending accounts with videos with the protesters.
Right.
But did the protesters threaten were the protesters threatening in the other videos?
Videos portraying the protesters as anything short of angelic and fantastic are generally removed because the Twitter moderators have an interest in making these protesters seem like great people.
So, can you prove that they're removing it because they want them to seem like great people?
I think it's pretty clear that nearly all Twitter accounts that are removed for posting videos like this are Republicans.
So you're saying, what about Democrats? Are they posting videos?
I'm sorry, could you say it again? My internet's a
Are
little
the Democrats posting videos about the protesters?
Democrats do tend to post videos about the protesters, making them seem great, yes.
So you're claiming that they have a bias against the Republicans?
That is what I'm claiming.
Okay.
All right, we're going to move forward with Asher's opening speech. Asher, I will start the time on your first word.
You wake up to find that the government controls the social media sites that you and your friends use. This seems like something from a dystopian novel, right? No. In many countries, like India and China, the government is already regulating the social media. My name is Asher, and today I'll be telling you why I am against the resolution that government regulation on social media is more good than harm. There are 3 reasons why I believe government regulation on social media does more good than harm. The first reason is that we have the First Amendment, which is the freedom of speech and expression. The second reason is that these companies already have guidelines in place. The third reason is that these are private companies. They are not connected to the government and should not be controlled by the government. My first reason is the First Amendment. The First Amendment states that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or the free exercise thereof, abridging the freedom of speech. Abridging means to reduce or limit. Freedom of speech includes talking online, which is what part of social media is. If the government removes the ability to post what we want, that would kind of be limiting the ability of free speech and therefore go against the First Amendment. Second, these companies already have guidelines. According to Freedom Forum Institute, Reddit, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Tumblr, and YouTube all prohibits hate speech. Harassment is also strictly against the policies of these sites. Now, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram all remove misinformation, and Facebook tries to contain the spread of misinformation. These policies are there to prevent things like bias, which the government doesn't want. And finally, these companies are private companies. They are not connected to government. Imagine your daily life being controlled by Amazon or Microsoft. These companies can decide what they want to appear on their social media platforms. The Supreme Court said merely hosting speech by others is not a traditional exclusive public function and does not alone transform a private entity into a state actor. The Supreme Court explained the function performed by YouTube, hosting speech on a private platform, is not an activity that only governmental entities have traditionally performed. Therefore, YouTube is not a government entity, and it's not subject to the First Amendment. So because of these three reasons, the fact we have the First Amendment, the fact that they have policies in place, and the fact that they are private companies, you should stand with me against the resolution that government regulation on social media does more good than harm.
Zach, are you going to want any prep time before going into the cross-examination?
No, thank you.
Time starts when you do.
All right. So you said that governmental regulations of social media are a violation of the First Amendment. Can you expand on that?
Yep. What?
Can you expand on that?
So because the First Amendment applies to government entities, and if they're regulated by the government, there would be government entities, and restricting the free speech would go against the First Amendment. The First Amendment, however, does not protect against threats and violence, but it does protect most things.
Okay, thank you. Now, you also said that policies on these sites are there to prevent bias, which the government wants. Can you explain that? Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said last. My audio connection cut out. Could you repeat it?
What was your question? I didn't hear your question.
Oh, you didn't hear my question. My question was, you said that policies are there to prevent bias, and the government wants bias. Can you explain that a little bit?
I said the policies are there to prevent bias and misinformation, which the government doesn't want.
The government does not want them to prevent bias?
No, does not want bias.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. All right, yeah, that's all I have for right now.
All right, we're going to move forward with Zach's first attack speech. Zach, do you want any prep time before delivering this speech?
Yes, please.
All right, your 2 minutes of prep time starts now. One minute of prep time has passed.
All right, thank you.
I'm ready whenever you are.
Well, my opponent has stated that governmental regulations on social media will be a violation of the First Amendment. Governmental regulations on social media will not be a violation of the First Amendment because, first of all, the governmental regulations does not mean removing everything the government disagrees with, nor does it mean removing things that are opinions or even necessarily removing things that are incorrect. It means preventing political voices from being censored by these voices and preventing cyber terrorists to recruit members for their websites. My opponent also stated that government regulations would make social media companies a government entity. This is not necessarily true. You see, an electric company can't refuse to give electricity to someone because they disagree with their political views. That does not make an electric company a government entity. There is also no argument for a government regulator making a regulator control social media, merely making regulations saying what social media is allowed to remove. My opponent also compared regulations to authoritarian countries like China. Authoritarian countries like China censor and silence people who disagree with the government. Government regulations on saying that social media companies cannot censor and silence people who disagree with the companies are in fact quite the opposite of this. This saying that you can't censor the president because he said that you can't be looting stores is very different than killing off the doctors who are saying that there is a coronavirus. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
All right, very good job. We're going to move forward with Asher's refutation speech. Asher, do you want any prep time before you deliver? All right. Time starts when you do.
So my opponent made some valid cases. Here's why they're wrong. For one, you claim that the government is you claim that Twitter and Facebook are biased. There's nothing to say that the government isn't also biased. Because the one political party is gonna be like probably the head of regulations, that means they're gonna still be in charge. They're gonna probably silence other party, wouldn't they? Because the government is biased. The government isn't like some perfect god-like deity who is perfect in any way. They are human beings and are biased. You also claim the government also isn't just gonna regulate social media. For example, they have to worry about the defense of the United States. They have to make new laws. They have to keep up the well-being of the people. They have to research the coronavirus cure. They have many other things to do, and they're not gonna focus a lot on social media when there are more threatening things, like how the relations between U.S. and China are weakening. And your example about the electrician, that has nothing to do with social media, as electric companies are private companies, and They can't. Political views has nothing to do. They'll give electricity even if they have different political views. It has nothing to do with government regulation. Government does not regulate an electric company, does not regulate how much electricity they're required to give. So they're private companies, and they're not subject to the First Amendment, like how YouTube is a private company and not subject to the First Amendment. You claim that they're able to prevent terrorism. However, terrorists can easily make a new account and start spreading more terror and fear into the people. It'd be some time before they get removed. However, after they get removed, they can easily just make another account with another false name, with another email. They probably have hundreds of members, hundreds of emails. They can cycle through and have hundreds of accounts that they can use to spread fear into the people. There's no way to prevent terrorism. People are always in fear. There's terrorists everywhere. Even if all their accounts get banned on one platform, they still have another platform to spread terrorism on.
All right, great job. Now we're going to wrap this up with our closing speeches, starting with Zach. Zach, you have 1 minute of prep time left. Do you want to use any of that before giving your closing speech?
Yes, please.
All right, your final minute starts now. Thirty seconds have passed. One minute has passed.
All right. Should I start?
Time starts when you do.
When the printing press was invented, it changed the world. It completely revolutionized the way information could be transferred. 400 years later, the first telephone came out, and communications were revolutionized once again. And now it's the age of social media. Instantaneously, anyone can put out anything and have it seen by millions of people worldwide. With everyone on the planet capable of transferring this kind of information, it is necessary for the government to have some say in how this information is regulated. During today's debate, my opponent made some solid arguments, but I am winning this debate for several reasons. One of these reasons is that, in spite of my repeated explanations that there would be regulations instead of regulators on social media, one of my opponent's main arguments seems to be set on the fact that the regulators might be biased. Another reason is that one of my opponent's large reputations was that the government is too busy to regulate social media. Tons of people are employed by the government, 9.1 million to be precise. So even if there was a group of regulators, which remember, there was not, that group would be focused merely on regulating anyway. Social media is a whole new way of information transfer. And unfortunately, this means that the people controlling social media companies have a ton of power over the entire world. I hereby affirm the resolution that governmental regulations on social media companies will do more good than harm, and I urge you to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you for the speech. Asher, do you want any prep time?
Nope.
All right, the time starts when you do.
Many Americans use social media daily, and now the government is going to regulate this as it regulates many other things. We must keep this vital tool away from the grasp of the government. I have won this debate. My opponent made some valid claims. However, I have won this debate for 3 reasons. First, I have successfully refuted his claims, like how the government is the social media sites are biased. They're 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 not biased. It's because they have terrorism and fear. It's not that they're biased. They don't want to spread panic. Second, his refute is untrue. His example was that electricity companies cannot refuse electricity because of different political views. That has nothing to do with government regulation and social media. They're 2 completely different things, and they cannot be compared with each other. He also neglected to remember that despite keep on saying, my opponent continuously saying worldwide and world and global, he forgot to remember that this is the U.S. government and these social media sites are worldwide, and that the U.S., many other countries hate the U.S. What will happen to those social media users? And finally, my claims are more backed up and are more related to my claim. My reasons. So I hope you side with me on today's debate that government regulation on social media does more good than harm.
All right, guys. Round of applause. That was a very good debate. One thing to mention for the people watching at home that was really impressive about this debate is neither person dropped a single argument, which is a very common thing that happens in debate. When people have multiple points behind their case, they can spend too long refuting one point and not have time to address another point. That's what we call dropping a point. And neither person did that in this debate, which is fantastic to see. They did a great job of making sure they addressed every single argument that was brought up and refuting it. So this was a very, very well done debate. Round of applause for Zach and Asher. And we are going to go ahead and finish this off with Justin and Alex. So if you guys want to head off the screen. And yes, we have the final slide here, Justin versus Alex.
Sorry, I skipped one slide ahead too far.
No worries. All right.
Emily, do you want to take it away?
Sure thing. Can
Okay.
do. All righty tighty, guys. I believe we have Justin, you're arguing the affirmative, correct?
Correct.
Correct. All right, just making sure. So we're going to go ahead and get started with Justin's opening speech. Good luck to both of you guys. And Justin, go ahead and stand up and I will start the time on your first word.
Remember back a couple of years ago when Russia used social media to unfairly boost Trump's chance of winning the 2016 election, or when many high-profile Twitter accounts like Elon Musk, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Bill Gates, and more were hacked to ask for Bitcoins just last month? Hi, my name is Justin, and today I affirm the resolution that government regulation on social media does more good than harm. My 3 reasons why I should side with Pro are 1, that it can help crack down on disinformation and illegal activities. 2, it can prevent social media from being used unfairly in politics. And 3, it can prevent monopolies. The first reason why I should side with Pro is that government regulation can help prevent disinformation and help crack down on illegal activities. According to an article by Bianca, early on in the coronavirus pandemic, there is misinformation about supposed coronavirus cure called chloroquine. It turned out not to be true. There are also similar examples with the Australia fires and the lab in Wuhan supposedly creating the coronavirus. Internet safety is important too, as many high-profile Twitter accounts were hacked just last month. If their accounts can be hacked, what's to say your account can't be hacked and your information stolen? This is why it's good to have government regulation to protect your information. My second reason why I should side with Pro is that government regulation can help reduce the use of social media in politics. Remember back a couple years ago when Russia used social media to unfairly boost Trump's chance of winning the election? This was backed up by evidence from an independent federal investigator. They used thousands of bots pretending to be Americans supporting radical political platforms and organized events in support of Trump and against Clinton. Since social media is used worldwide, this could affect every country's election or the countries that have elections. And this isn't the only example. In Brazil in 2018, there was massive amounts of false and damaging information by candidate Jair Bolsonaro's rivals, giving him an unfair advantage in the election. My third and final reason why I should side with Pro is that government regulation can help prevent monopolies. According to an article by Forbes, just Facebook and Google alone control 60% of online media spending. There should be government regulation to make sure Facebook and Google don't try to form a monopoly. According to another article by The Atlantic, social media presence is not equal across the U.S., with more developed areas having more of a say in the economy, leading to many people in lower-income areas not having their voices heard. Government regulation can help these people find their voices in the economy and the world. In conclusion, things should side with Pro in this debate because government regulation can help crack down on disinformation and illegal activities. It can stop these social media being used unfairly in politics, and it can stop monopolies. Social media using the interference in the 2016 election and the Twitter hack are reasons enough. We need government regulation to make social media more safe and fair for everyone. For these reasons, I urge you to side with Pro in this debate.
All right, thank you very much, Justin. Alex, do you want any prep time before your cross-examination? All right, then the time will start as you ask your first question.
So you talked about misinformation on social media, right?
Yeah.
All right. So do you think that the person themselves would most likely blindly believe what they see on social media, or do you think that they would go onto the web and have the right to research the truth?
Well, of course, there's some people who don't research, don't find misinformation law, but a lot of people don't do that, and a lot of people, especially younger people and older people, can be tricked by misinformation.
Yes, but they have the right. They have the right to find out the truth, right? They can.
Yes, a lot of people do, but a lot of people don't, and still
Yeah, I know.
massive amounts of people are tricked by misinformation.
Yeah, okay. But all right. So you also talked about cybersecurity, people getting hacked, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what specifically could the government do about that the person themselves couldn't, or the social media couldn't?
Well, since the government has a lot of funds, government has a lot of money to spare. For example, government spends around $600 billion on the military. So at least some of that money can be moved over to social media to maybe have some more security systems. And even if they're not on the security systems themselves, they could maybe try to help fund the social media companies so they have the resources to add more security systems.
You're using terms like resources and stuff. Like what specifically?
Or specifically the funds so they can like buy more security systems.
Okay.
All right. Good job, boys. We're going to continue with Alex's opening speech. Alex, go ahead and stand up, and I will start the time on your first word.
We all know that social media is a place for almost everyone. There is always some sort of community that you can belong to, whether you play the kazoo or you're obsessed with animals. There is always a place where you can have an opinion and not be judged for it. You can ask questions and almost certainly get an answer. You can even explore other communities or find something that makes you laugh or chuckle a bit. Well, what if I told you that all of these amazing risks of social media qualities of social media were at risk? There's been discussion throughout the public and within the government whether the government should regulate social media. These regulations specifically are the things that are putting these awesome characteristics at risk. Now, the argument for this is that these qualities need to be slightly sacrificed and disabled for the greater good. To this argument, I, Alex Kottke, have 3 reasons why this isn't true. 1, these regulations would be considered immoral and they violate basic law. Reason 2, it could destroy and deteriorate the platform. Reason 3, we can't trust the government to regulate social media. Now, the reason I say that it is immoral and it violates basic law is because it does. And you're probably wondering how? How is it immoral? What laws does it violate? Well, these regulations would actually break or risk breaking several laws, including the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, the Fourth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, and Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights from the UN itself. Also, if the government did end up regulating social media, then it would take away the right for a company to manage its own business that it built itself, which friends, family, and it almost seems like the general public believe that it is immoral. The reason I say it can deteriorate and destroy the platform is because the way social media companies can make money are through advertisements, and the money they earn through advertisements are used to then fund the business and make it more convenient and fun for its users. However, the government may see some ads as biased or untrue and censor them, and as a result, the social media companies get way less money for their site, as most ads are biased towards the person viewing them. So, as a result, this could eventually deteriorate the platform and completely ruin the site and social media for everyone. Also, it's unfair to small businesses. According to the SEORE, 77% of small businesses use social media for advertising. The reason I say we can't trust the government to regulate social media because even they're dependent on it. Examples of this are how in 2016, how many social media platforms had a lot of say in the election in 2016, especially Facebook. It was where many people shared their opinions, and it was where many people shared their opinions and changed from voting from one person to another person, and it had a very, very big impact on the election. In fact, according to Pew Research, over half of Americans were involved in some social or political activity in 2017 and in 2018. Even government officials use it. Also, according to Pew Research, an average government official would tweet twice as much today as they would in 2016. So after this abundance of information, I think that it's pretty clear why it could be disastrous if we let the government regulate social media. As there is good, I know there is good, but in the end, there's more harm done, which means in the end, social media would best remain independent, and why you should vote Kong for today's debate.
All right, great job. Justin, do you want any prep time, or are we going to go straight into cross-examination?
We're going to go straight into cross-examination.
Time starts on your first question.
All right. So my first question is, Chen violates basic law because it violates the First and Fourth Amendment, and it violates the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Can you be more specific on what specific parts of those laws regulation violates?
Amendment 1. Wait, just to be clear, I said it could risk risk breaking or end up breaking, and I'll go through more of that later. But First Amendment, right to criticize the government and right to through religion, through opinion, basically freedom of thought, mostly to criticize the government. Two is basically the right to privacy and the right to not be searched. And Article 19, the right of freedom of thought, freedom of expression, freedom of opinion. It's pretty straightforward. Freedom of thought, freedom of opinion.
Alright, so I have another question. One of the points you said was that it violates freedom of thought, but how does that work? Freedom of thought is just freedom to think whatever you want to think, right?
Well, it's freedom of it's freedom of thought. Freedom of thought is part of it. It's a freedom of opinion, freedom of thought, freedom of speech. It's essentially freedom to say what you think.
So you're saying it would reduce the quality of site because of less ads, right? Can you elaborate more on that?
Could you repeat your question?
Can you elaborate more on your second point that regulation would reduce the quality of site because of less ads?
So most ads are biased towards the person viewing them because the way ads work is that they appeal to a certain niche. So if you really like shoes, you'll get a bunch of add-on shoes based on your search history. So which actually gives the opportunity for small businesses in that niche to show their ads to you on social media. And it helps make the social media platforms make money, as I already said, and that's. Do you have any further questions?
Well, then I have one last question. On your third point. Your third point was that your third point was that government is dependent on social media. Can you elaborate a bit more on that point also?
Yeah, sure. So basically, the government itself is very, very. There are two sides to government, Republican, Democrat. So basically, a lot of like senators, government officials who are on that certain side push their opinion on social media a lot, and getting rid of it could be very, very, very bad for the government.
And that's gonna be time. All right. Good job, guys. We're gonna continue with the refutation speeches, starting with Justin. Justin, do you want any prep time before delivering your rebuttal?
No.
No? All right. The time will start on your first word.
Although my opponent has made many good points, I am here to rebuttal them all. Let's begin. My opponent's first point is that government regulation would violate basic law because it would violate freedom of speech. However, government regulation isn't the government controlling the internet. It's just government regulating what can be allowed on the site, and it's mostly just cutting down on racist and hateful information. My opponent's second point is that government regulation would reduce the quality of the site because there would be less ads. However, I am here to say that actually the opposite would happen. Ads would increase, and I'll tell you why. So the way ads work is that usually bigger companies are given preference because they can pay more money. However, this may be a problem for smaller companies. For example, in 2015, I think Apple's marketing budget was $1.8 billion. Many smaller companies probably aren't even worth a fourth of that much, so they can't afford to compete. There's government regulation that could help smaller companies actually get their ads out, which would provide more incentive for smaller companies to put advertising on a social media site. My opponent's third point is that the government relies on social media. However, it has been found that many social media sites like Facebook are biased. So if they're biased, then social media sites can potentially cut down and try to eliminate and voice their ads supporting the other party. In conclusion, though my opponent has made some good points during the debate, I feel I have successfully refuted them all.
All right. Good job. Alex, do you want any prep time before delivering your refutation? Okay.
Okay, so my opponent has made some very thought-provoking, very challenging points that definitely challenge the concept. However, there are many of his points are a bit flawed, and I overall believe that I can successfully refute them. So my opponent Justin says that said that most people don't look forward into the misinformation they see online. So therefore, that the government should regulate the misinformation. However, they still have the right. They still have the right to. They still have the right. The viewer of the content has the right to research. They have the right to find out the truth. There's if they have access to social media, internet, they have sources to they have access to other sources most likely, and so it's mostly up to the viewer to not just blindly believe and follow what they see on social media, but to actually do the research, as they should have an understanding that people can post right now whatever they want on social media. And one of my opponent's points was also that cybersecurity, that the government could help with hacking. The government does have more money, however, it does have more money than a lot of social media platforms. However, it is almost impossible to stop hacking, and actually, according to the New York Post and many other sources, it's actually more up to the user to see whether they can to stop a hack, because it's always going to be you are always going to be susceptible to happen, whether you have the most secure VPN, whether you're encrypted, you are always going to be susceptible to hack. So the things you can do, make your password less obvious. Most people's password is still password, or 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10, or something very obvious. You can there are certain things about your profile that can make hackers less susceptible to choose you. So in the end, you will always be impossible to hack, and the government can't really do much about that. And then my opponent's final point, another one of my opponent's points, his point, I believe, was on it was misinformation. On misinformation, yeah. So my opponent's point on misinformation, that it can, or hate speech, it's misinformation, harassment, and censorship. So the government, you should have the right to say what you believe, even if you may be censored by the government, you should have the right to say what you say, no matter who you offend, as again, that is censorship and immoral and violates basic law, as I said in my speech.
All right, nice job, guys. So then finally, we're going to do our closing speeches. Justin, do you want any prep time before giving us your closing speech?
No.
All right. Time starts on your first word.
Okay. The transfer of information has been central to society throughout the ages, from the marathon runner to new ideas being spread around the world by globalism, to the internet connecting the world even more. Transfer of information and knowledge has always been central to society. Knowledge is power, after all. However, with all this openness, there should be at least some form of regulation, especially on one of the main forms of information transfer today, social media. After all, information transfer can be used to improve the world and also be used for plunder and conquest. I think there are many reasons why I've clearly won this debate, but here are 3 reasons. 1, I have shown that government regulation will make social media more fair and safe for politics, society, and economics. 2, social media is one of the most powerful tools today. Such a powerful tool should have some regulation. And 3, even though my opponent has made some good points, and even though there are some flaws in government regulation, feel the good parts of government regulation outweighs it. Remember, this isn't an argument about whether government regulation is all good or all bad. It's about whether the good outweighs the bad, and I believe it does. In conclusion, government regulation on social media is the right choice. I know some threats like hackers and misinformation we can't fully stop, but we can try our best to mitigate these problems. It's for these reasons and many more that I believe government regulation is the right choice for humankind and the right choice in this debate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And last but certainly not least, we will go Alex's closing speech. Alex, do you want any prep time before giving us your closing speech? All right. Time starts on your first word.
We all use social media every day. In fact, more than half the population of the Earth does. And according to statistics, we enjoy it, usually because of what it has to offer. However, government regulations risk this. Now, my opponent has made a very compelling case. He has made many challenging points and many fair points that really test my strengths and test my knowledge on my topic. However, and he has had a great debate. However, I believe I've had a better debate, and I believe I've made better points than he has. And to prove this bold claim, I have 3 reasons why. I have 3 reasons why I've had a better debate. 1, my opponent has ignored many points on the misinformation topic, as I stated in my refutation speech. It is up to the viewer to find out the true truth and to know that what they see on social media isn't always true, and sometimes maybe the person themselves is misinformed. So the viewer has the right and most likely definitely has the access to find out the real truth. 2, my opponent claims that the way ads are managed now could eventually create a monopoly. However, this is not true, as a monopoly is more of one business, one very a single business taking over and making it everything very, very overpriced and unfair for the consumer and other businesses. And second of all, it is incorrect about ads. He is incorrect about ads and how they work. And third reason, he ignores the fact that it is always impossible for you to get hacked. These are the reasons why I've won today's debate. Thank you.
All right. Claps. Yes. Thank you, Justin. Very good debate. Very good debate, guys. That was well done on both of your ends. You can definitely see how much these guys have to say. I think Alex made time on every single speech he gave in this debate, which is truly impressive. These kids did a particularly good job of weighing the speeches at the end. I noticed both of them. When you weigh a speech, it's when you weigh your arguments against your opponents and you use that to give yourself leverage in a debate. These guys did a really good job of doing that there at the end, and it was very pleasing to see. So yeah, great job from absolutely everybody. All 6 of you guys did an amazing job. It's been a pleasure to bear witness to.
All right, thanks guys. You can go ahead and go off screen, and or Coach Emily and I can finish this up. So I just want to remind all the parents how hard these students have worked this week. All of them not only had to take their speech from last week and tweak it, but they also had to come up with 2 more speeches, both of which are not the same every time they give it. They have to adapt it to each debate. And so in total, they've probably written, I would say at least 15 to 20 different
15,
speeches this week. Yeah, somewhere. It depends on, they could change it from person each time they debate a person too, like tweaking it. So they've done a lot of writing. And this has all been in the course of just 4.5 days, starting on Monday. So if I were you, I would be very impressed with how hard your students have worked throughout this week. Some of the skills, again, they focused on, they had already worked a lot at persuasive speaking last week, but as you saw, they did really well at attacking arguments, as well as kind of synthesizing those arguments to see how well they do up against their own. One more skill they have yet to learn in debate is how to successfully defend their points. This is not something we teach in this week, but it is something they would learn if they go on to Debate 301 or a future debate course. So they'll add one more skill in there, which can be really helpful in that debate repertoire. All right, well, you saw some amazing things today. Thank you for joining us. As always, if you have any questions, you are free to reach out to us at any point. Before I want to sign off, I just want to call up to Ron one more time to see if he's in the background and wants to jump on to say hi or not. I know that he likes to generally welcome everyone at some point, but there's a lot of different classes that he has to get to, so I don't know if he always gets the chance to do that. But we'll give him a second, and if I don't see him, then we'll sign off here. But I just, again, thank you for being here, students. We've had a lot of fun. I'm really sad that I won't get to play Scribble anymore this summer, as this is my last week of Capital Debate Camp, and it's been a really fun game that I didn't know existed before, and hopefully you can take it to some of your other friends. And Spyfall. Spyfall is pretty cool. So, yeah, what's up, Justin?
One question I'm gonna ask everyone is does anyone want to keep in contact or something?
Yeah, you guys are definitely welcome to keep in contact. You have the Capital Debate emails for now, so if you want to share contact info during that, you can, okay?
Okay.
Cool, so just go ahead, you can message people in there if you want. All right, well, that being said, thank you all for joining us. That concludes our presentation for today. As always, you are feel free to email us at team@capitaldebate.com or call us at 800-450-5012. Have a great rest of the summer and good luck this fall in school. Bye, guys.